The screen is dark, a single sound, pen scratching on paper. My hands are shaking slightly as I write, not from anger, from clarity. I'm sitting in a coffee shop on 5th Street, the one with the broken espresso machine and the owner who never looks up from his phone. The date is March 14th, my 34th birthday. Nobody knows I'm here. The notebook in front of me is filled with dates, bank statements, screenshots, voicemail transcripts, 347 pages of evidence, 10 years of collected proof. I close my eyes for 1 second. Today is the day they find out what happens when you choose someone else's birthday over someone's survival. I look up. Through the window, I can see my mother's car pulling into the parking lot across the street. She's early. That's not like her. My phone buzzes. A text from my sister. "Mom's going to surprise you. Be ready by 2 p.m. We planned something special this year." My sister, Emma, the architect of the most calculated cruelty I have ever known. I read the message 3 times. My fingers hover over the keyboard. But I don't respond, because I don't need to. Everything is already in motion. The pen goes back to the notebook. I write one more thing, in letters that are slow and deliberate. Day 1 of everything ending. Let me take you back. Not to the betrayal, to before that, to when I was someone who still believed that family meant something. I grew up in a house where birthdays mattered. My sister Emma was born when I was 3 years old. I remember that day because my mother told the story 1,000 times. The story of how Emma arrived in the world with complications, how everyone held their breath in the hospital waiting room, how Emma finally cried her first cry and the entire family wept with relief. My mother told that story every single birthday Emma had, every cake, every celebration. Emma's birthday is April 8th. Mine is March 14th, exactly 3 weeks before hers. The first birthday I remember clearly was my 7th. I wore a dress that my grandmother made. It had yellow flowers embroidered on the sleeves. I still have a photograph from that day. I'm standing in the kitchen with a cake that says, "Happy Birthday, Sarah," in blue letters, my mother's handwriting. She made it from scratch. But I don't remember eating it. What I remember is Emma getting sick that night. A fever that turned into something worse. Dehydration. My mother rushing Emma to the hospital at midnight while my father stayed with me. I fell asleep on the couch alone, in my yellow-flowered dress, while they fought to keep my sister alive. Emma had pneumonia. She recovered in 4 days. My cake went in the garbage on March 15th. When I turned 8, my parents told me we'd celebrate later. They never did. By the time I was 10, I stopped expecting anything. But I didn't stop planning. Because while everyone in my family forgot my birthday year after year, I became obsessed with remembering theirs. I made Emma's birthday special. That's what you do when you're a sister. That's what good people do. At 13, I saved my allowance for 4 months and bought Emma a necklace with her initials. Solid silver. Not expensive, but real. She wore it to school. I watched her touch it through her shirt all day, like it was the most precious thing she owned. She never thanked me. At 16, I planned a surprise party for her 18th birthday. I invited her friends to our house. I baked the cake myself, chocolate with raspberry filling, her favorite. I bought decorations from 3 different stores to find the right shade of teal, which was her favorite color that year. Emma walked in and looked at the decorations like they were an embarrassment. "You didn't have to do this," she said. But she smiled. And that smile made me think that maybe she understood. Maybe she saw all of this. Maybe she knew that I was trying to be the kind of sister who mattered. 34 years old, and I'm still trying to figure out when that changed. My mother never threw me a party after I turned 12. My father gave me money sometimes on my birthday, but he had to ask my mother what day it was. They forgot so often that I stopped telling them when my birthday was coming. Instead, I planned. Every single year, I planned Emma's birthday. and every single year I watched my family treat it like a national holiday. I don't think I realized I was angry until I was 26 years old. Part 3. The Betrayal 6-12 Minutes. Emma and I shared an apartment for 2 years when we were in our late 20s. That's when everything changed. I was working as a financial analyst. Steady job, good salary, not amazing money but enough to cover rent, my share of utilities, and a small savings account. I was quiet about my work. I didn't talk much about what I made or what I spent. I was the kind of person who went to work and came home and kept to herself. Emma was starting her architecture practice with a partner named David Chen. She was brilliant at what she did. I can say that without hesitation. Emma had a gift for seeing buildings in spaces that didn't exist yet. She could walk into an empty lot and describe a building so perfectly that you could see it too. But she was also reckless with money. In the beginning, her practice barely made anything. David was the same way. They were two talented people who had no concept of cash flow or operating costs. They were burning through their savings like it was unlimited. I watched her worry at night. I'd hear her on her laptop in the apartment's small office, running numbers, trying to figure out how to make payroll. One night in October, she knocked on my bedroom door. I was reading. I remember that specifically. She sat on my bed and asked me something I should have seen coming from a mile away. "Can I borrow money for the firm?" I asked how much. She said $50,000. I didn't have $50,000 in my savings account. I had $23,000, everything I'd saved for 5 years, my emergency fund, my insurance against the world falling apart. "I'll pay you back," Emma said. "By next June, I promise." I asked her why she didn't ask Mom and Dad. She said they would say no. They didn't believe in her business. David's family was going to invest, but the paperwork wasn't done yet, and she needed the money now to buy equipment and software licenses. She said she trusted me. Nobody had ever said they trusted me before. I gave her $23,000. She said she'd borrow from a bank for the rest. That was October 17th of that year. The promised repayment date was June 15th. June 15th came and went. Emma's practice had started making money, real money. She had landed a contract with a hotel developer. The firm was growing. By summer, she was making more than I was. But she didn't repay the loan. When I asked her about it, she said it would take another few months. Cash flow was weird. Money was coming in but going right back out to pay contractors and staff. I didn't push it. That was my mistake. 2 things happened in September of that year. First, Emma bought a new car, a Range Rover, black, expensive. I saw it parked in our building's lot and felt something shift inside my chest. Second, I overheard a phone conversation. I wasn't trying to spy. I came home early from work and could hear her in the office on the phone with her accountant. The door was open. She was laughing. I know, she was saying, but it's not really a loan if I don't pay it back, right? It's more like an advance on her income." Her accountant was saying something. Emma said, "She's not going to do anything. Sarah doesn't do anything." My name in her mouth sounded like a curse word. "She's always been like this," Emma continued. "She just works and saves and waits for something to happen. She doesn't have ambition. She doesn't have plans. So I'm using this money the way it was supposed to be used, by someone who actually knows what to do with it." I stopped breathing. "Besides," Emma said, "it's basically guilt money. Guilt for being the forgotten daughter. That's the kind of person she is. She gives because she feels bad about herself." I walked away before she could say anything else. I didn't confront her that day, or the next day, or the day after that. I just kept working, kept coming home, kept watching her wear that new car like a trophy. And I started keeping records. A document on my personal laptop, bank statements, credit card bills, everything that showed she had borrowed money under the pretense of needing it for her business, and then used it for personal expenses instead. She never paid me back. By November, she moved out. Her firm was doing well enough that she got her own place, a beautiful apartment in a converted warehouse. I knew from Instagram that she had decorated it perfectly. I went to her birthday party that April. She turned 31. I watched my mother take hundreds of photographs. I watched my father present her with a check for $5,000 as a business investment, a gift, something he said he was proud to do. I waited for someone to ask me about the $23,000. Nobody did. That's when I understood something fundamental about my family. It wasn't that they forgot about me. It was that they didn't see me. I was the background, the infrastructure, the person who made other people's lives possible. Emma wasn't just ungrateful for the money. She was ungrateful for me, for the years of remembered birthdays, for the sister who showed up. And my parents weren't just forgetful about my birthday. They were complicit. They had never once asked Emma about the loan, never once told her to repay it, never once considered that maybe Sarah, boring, quiet, forgetful Sarah, might be struggling. That's when I stopped being the sister who remembered. That's when I started being something else. 3 years passed. During those 3 years, Emma's firm became one of the most respected architecture practices in the state. She won awards. Her buildings were featured in magazines. She was becoming famous. During those 3 years, I promoted twice at my job and became a senior analyst. My salary increased by 40%. During those 3 years, nobody in my family acknowledged that I had done anything. My mother called on my birthday. This was new. For years she hadn't called at all. "Happy birthday, Sarah," she said. "I hope you're doing something nice for yourself." That was it. 5 seconds on the phone. Then she asked if I was coming to Emma's birthday party in 2 weeks. Emma's firm had won a major award. The party was being held at an upscale venue. It was going to be written up in the society section of the newspaper. I said I would be there. Of course I would be there. What I didn't tell my mother was what I had been doing for those 3 years. I had been documenting everything. The loan, $23,000, plus the interest I should have been earning on it, which brought it to $26,000. I had a folder with screenshots, bank records, emails. But it wasn't just about the money anymore. When people owe you money and never repay it, they usually feel guilty. They avoid you. They act strange. Emma didn't. Emma acted like I owed her something. She would text me asking for favors. Could I help her move? Could I lend her my car for a client meeting? Could I write a recommendation letter for her employee? Each time I said yes. Each time I documented it. And each time I kept asking myself the same question. What are you doing? I didn't have an answer yet, but I knew I was building toward something. One night I went through my phone and found all of the birthday presents I had given Emma over the years. Photographs, receipts, gift bags, the necklace, the surprise party, the cakes. I tallied it up. Over 20 years, I had spent approximately $18,000 on her birthdays. Added to the $23,000 loan, that was $41,000. $41,000 in money, time, energy, and love. I added it all to my folder. Then I did something I didn't recognize myself doing. I hired a private investigator. I don't say that lightly. That's the kind of thing people do in movies, but I did it. I sat across from a woman named Catherine Martinez in her office in a strip mall on the edge of the city, and I asked her to find out everything she could about my sister. Catherine asked me why. I told her that my sister had defrauded me and my family, and I needed proof. She didn't blink. She just started making notes. "What kind of fraud?" she asked. "The slow kind," I said. "The kind that people don't notice because it's family." Catherine charged me $4,000. It took her 3 weeks. What she found was worse than I expected. Emma had not just failed to repay the $23,000. She had used my credit history to open a credit card in my name. It took me a moment to process that sentence. My credit history, my name, A credit card that I didn't apply for, didn't authorize, and had no idea existed. Catherine had found the credit card application. It had been signed by me, or rather, by someone who had forged my signature. The handwriting looked a lot like Emma's. The credit card had been used for 2 years. The balance was $11,000. $11,000 in charges that I never made. Interior design consultation, furniture, restaurants, travel. All of it traceable to Emma's firm and her personal life. I sat in Catherine's office and felt something inside me go very still. I wasn't angry. That surprised me. I thought I would be furious. I thought I would cry or shout or do something dramatic. Instead, I felt cold. Like someone had just solved a puzzle I'd been working on for years. "What do you want to do?" Catherine asked. That was the question, wasn't it? I could go to the police. I could press charges. Credit card fraud is a felony in most states. My sister could go to prison. But I wasn't thinking about prison. I was thinking about the fact that nobody had noticed. Nobody in my family had called and asked if something was wrong. Nobody had checked on me. Nobody had asked about my finances or my birthday or my life. My mother called on my birthday, sure, but only because she wanted to ask if I was coming to Emma's party. My father hadn't called in 6 months. Emma called whenever she needed something. And now I understood why. Because I had trained them to treat me like I didn't matter. I had volunteered, year after year, to be the one who was forgotten. The one who gave without asking for anything back. The one who was always there, always ready, always willing. I had taught my family that I was the kind of person who could be used. And now I was sitting in Catherine Martinez's office, holding a file folder that proved it, and the first thing I felt was shame. Not shame at what Emma had done. Shame that I had let it happen. Shame that I had somehow made it possible by being too quiet, too forgiving, too much like the kind of sister who deserves what's coming to her. "I'm going to need some time to think," I told Catherine. She handed me the folder. "Take all the time you need," she said, "but I'm going to tell you something I've learned doing this job." I looked at her. "The people who hurt us the most are the ones we gave the most power to," she said. "So you've got a choice now. You can either take that power back or you can keep giving it away." I left her office with the folder. That night, I called in sick to work. I didn't leave my apartment. I sat on my bed with the folder in front of me, and I read every single page. The credit card fraud, the unpaid loan, the forged signature. All of it pointing to one person. My sister. My sister, who had her birthday coming up in 3 weeks. My sister, who expected me to show up at her party and pretend that everything was normal. My sister, who had no idea that I had just learned what she'd done. My sister, who was about to find out that I was no longer the kind of person who forgave. I went back to work on Monday like nothing had happened. I sat at my desk in the same chair. I opened the same spreadsheets. I attended the same meetings. And I was someone different. I looked the same. I acted the same. I smiled when I needed to smile. But inside, everything had shifted. For 20 years, I had been waiting for someone to notice me, to value me, to say thank you for remembering, thank you for caring, thank you for being the kind of person who shows up. I was done waiting. I was done performing gratitude for being taken advantage of. I was done apologizing for being the forgotten sister. The first thing I did was call a lawyer. Her name was Patricia Wells, and she specialized in financial crimes and fraud. I found her through an online directory and called her office without any real plan other than needing to talk to someone who understood what fraud looked like. Patricia's receptionist asked what my case was about. I said, "My sister stole from me and defrauded my identity." I was put on hold for 7 minutes. Then Patricia came on the line. "Tell me everything," she said. And I did. I told her about the loan, about the credit card opened in my name, about the signature, about the 2 years of charges. Patricia asked a lot of questions. The most important one was, "Do you have documentation?" I said yes. "Then you have a case," she said. "The question isn't whether you can win. The question is whether you want to pursue it." She was right. That was the question. Because filing charges against your sister isn't something you do lightly. It means lawyers. It means court. It means your family finding out that one of their own has committed a federal crime. It means everything coming into the light. Patricia told me to think about it for a week. I thought about it for 6 days. On the 7th day, I called her back and said, "I want to do this, but I want to do it strategically." She asked what I meant. I said, "I don't want to just press charges. I want her to understand what she did to me." "That's not how the legal system works," Patricia said. "The goal is justice, not revenge." "Then help me get justice," I said, "but let me do it in a way that makes her feel what I felt." Patricia was quiet on the phone. Then she said, "You're going to need to play this very carefully." "I know," I said. "And you're going to need to keep this completely secret," she said. "If she finds out you're pursuing legal action before we're ready, she could try to cover her tracks." "She doesn't know I know," I said. "Good," Patricia said. "Let's keep it that way." So that's what I did. I kept quiet. I kept working. I kept pretending that nothing had changed. But behind the scenes, everything was changing. Patricia had me file a report with the credit card company about the fraudulent card. The credit card company immediately froze the account and initiated an investigation. Patricia had me pull all 3 of my credit reports and file fraud alerts on all of them. Patricia had me gather every piece of documentation that existed. The loan agreement I had written on my kitchen table, I had made Emma sign it, though she had never taken it seriously. The screenshots of the text messages asking to borrow money, the bank statements showing when the money left my account, the forged signature on the credit card application, the charges made on that card. It was a lot of evidence. "The case is strong," Patricia said after 3 weeks of gathering materials. "Stronger than most I see. You documented everything." "I've been keeping records for a long time," I said. "It shows," Patricia said. "The question now is, what do you want the outcome to be?" I thought about this for a long time. The obvious answer was, I want her to go to prison. But that wasn't what I wanted, not really. What I wanted was for her to face what she had done. What I wanted was for my family to understand how much I had given and how little I had received in return. What I wanted was to stop being invisible. "I want to give her a choice," I said finally. "What kind of choice?" Patricia asked. "I want to tell her what I know," I said. "And I want to give her the option to repay what she owes me, publicly acknowledge what she did, and face the consequences. Or I want to press charges and let the legal system handle it." Patricia nodded slowly. "That's unusual," she said, "but it might work. If she's smart, she'll take the first option and try to make this go away." "And if she's not smart?" I asked. "Then you'll destroy her," Patricia said. It wasn't cruel when she said it, it was factual. "The evidence is overwhelming. She'll lose her business, her reputation, probably her freedom." I absorbed that. "When?" I asked. "When do I tell her?" Patricia smiled slightly. "On her birthday," she said, "if that's what you want." I had exactly 2 weeks to prepare. 2 weeks to plan the biggest confrontation of my life. 2 weeks to decide how I wanted this to end. I called Emma on a Tuesday night. "Hey," she said when she picked up. "What's up?" I could hear the slight surprise in her voice. I didn't usually call her. We texted. We saw each other at family gatherings, but we didn't call each other and just talk. "I wanted to wish you a happy early birthday," I said. "I was thinking about throwing a small dinner party, nothing big, just a few close people." "Seriously," Emma said, and I could hear something shift in her voice, something that sounded like guilt, like she suddenly remembered something and was ashamed of it. "Yeah," I said. "I know I haven't done much for your birthday in a few years. I wanted to change that." "Sarah, you don't have to," Emma started. I want to, I said. It was the most honest thing I would say to her for the next 2 weeks. You're my sister, let me do this. There was a pause. Then Emma said yes. But nothing too crazy, she said. Just something simple. Simple, I repeated. Got it. I called Patricia that night and told her that Emma had agreed to come to dinner. Good, Patricia said. That gives us time to prepare everything else. The everything else included a letter that I would write to my parents outlining everything that had happened. The unpaid loan, the forged credit card, all of it. I wouldn't send it until after the dinner, but I would write it so that it was ready, so that I wouldn't have to do it in the heat of the moment. A second letter to Emma's business partner, David Chen. He deserved to know that his partner had committed fraud. He deserved to know about the money that had been used to fund their firm and where that money came from. A statement to file with the police department. The charges would be federal because of the identity fraud, which meant it would be a bigger case. Bigger charges, bigger consequences. And I needed witnesses. Patricia advised against having witnesses at the actual confrontation. She said it could be seen as coercion or intimidation, but I needed someone to know what was happening in case Emma denied it later. So I decided to tell my mother. Not everything, just the essential parts, just enough that when I confronted Emma, there would be someone in my family who understood that this wasn't about spite. This was about justice. I called my mother the week before Emma's birthday. Mom, I said, can we have coffee, just us? My mother, surprised, agreed. We met at a coffee shop on a Thursday morning. She looked thinner than the last time I had seen her. My father had been having health issues, and the stress was showing on her face. I almost told her that I couldn't do this, that it would hurt her, that dragging our family through this would damage everyone. But then I remembered something. I remembered my 7th birthday, the yellow-flowered dress, the cake in the garbage, the hospital waiting room while my father stayed with me alone. I remembered every birthday after that. I remembered the pain of being forgotten. I remembered the shame of thinking that it was my fault, that if I was just better, smarter, quieter, more deserving, then maybe I would be remembered too. I need to tell you something about Emma, I said, and I told her. Not everything, but the major points, the loan that was never repaid, the credit card opened in my name without my permission, the signature that wasn't mine. My mother's face went pale. That's not possible, she said. It is, I said. I had brought copies of the documentation. I slid them across the table. She read them in silence. When she was done, she looked at me with an expression I had never seen on her face before. It was shame. Sarah, she said, why didn't you tell us? And I almost said, because you wouldn't have noticed, because nobody ever notices when I'm hurt. But instead I said, because I wanted to handle it myself. What are you going to do? My mother asked. I'm going to confront her on her birthday, I said. I'm going to give her a choice, admit what she did, repay the money, and face the social consequences, or I'm going to press charges. My mother shook her head. Sarah, that's not fair. She could go to prison. I know, I said. You can't send your sister to prison, my mother said. And there it was. The core of everything. Nobody in my family would ever prioritize me. Nobody would ever say, yes, what Emma did was wrong and Sarah deserves justice. They would say, think of what this will do to Emma. Think of what this will do to our family. But nobody ever said, think of what this did to Sarah. I'm giving her a choice, I said quietly. That's more than she gave me. My mother didn't speak after that. She picked up the documents and read through them again, slowly. I'll talk to your father, she said finally. But Sarah, prepare yourself. This is going to hurt everyone. It already has, I said. Part 7, The Hidden Truth, 32-35 minutes. The night before Emma's birthday, I was sitting in my apartment when my phone rang. It was Emma. Hey, she said. I'm just confirming for tomorrow night. What time should I come over? 7 o'clock, I said. Just come to my place. Okay, Emma said. Sarah, thank you for doing this. I know we've been distant and I know I haven't been the best sister, but I appreciate that you're trying. I didn't say anything. Sarah, Emma prompted. You're welcome, I said. After I hung up, I sat in the dark for a long time. I had been planning this moment for months, but the reality of it was different than I expected. Emma thought this was a birthday dinner. Emma thought her sister finally cared enough to celebrate her. Emma had no idea that her world was about to collapse. At 9 in the morning, on the day of the dinner, my phone buzzed with a news alert. It was an article from the local business journal. Architect Emma Morrison under investigation for financial fraud, the headline read. I clicked on the link. The article was sourced to anonymous sources within the firm and detailed the discovery of fraudulent financial records related to the firm's accounting practices. The investigation was being conducted by the State Attorney General's office. It didn't mention Emma specifically. The article suggested that multiple people within the firm might be implicated. But it mentioned her name. I called Patricia immediately. Did you leak this? I asked. No, Patricia said, but the State Attorney General's office did. Someone within your sister's firm reported discrepancies. This has been in motion longer than your personal case against her. I felt something heavy settle in my stomach. What does that mean? I asked. It means, Patricia said, that when you confront her tonight, she's probably going to be panicking about this investigation. She's probably going to realize that the fraud is about to come to light anyway. That might actually work in your favor. But it didn't feel like it was in my favor. It felt like everything was spinning out of control. An hour later, my mother called. Did you see the news? She asked. Yes, I said. Sarah, this is more serious than we thought. She's already under investigation. I know, I said. Are you going to go forward with the confrontation? I thought about this. Everything was already coming apart. The investigation was already happening. Emma's world was already falling. But she didn't know that I knew. She didn't know about the forged credit card. She didn't know about the private investigator. She didn't know that the person she thought was the weak sister, the one who could be used and forgotten and taken advantage of, had been keeping records the entire time. Yes, I said, I'm going to go forward. By 3 o'clock in the afternoon, Emma was calling the house asking to postpone the dinner. Her mother told her no, that I had worked hard on this and that it would mean a lot to me if she came. I watched the text messages come through. Emma, but Mom, did you see the article? My firm is under investigation. Mom, your sister still wants to celebrate with you. Come to dinner. Emma didn't text me directly. She sent one more message to my mother. Tell Sarah I'm sorry. Tell her we'll do this another time. But my mother didn't pass along the message. At 6:45 p.m., I heard the knock on my door. I opened it. Emma was standing in the hallway wearing a black dress. She looked exhausted. Her eyes were red. She had been crying. Hey, she said quietly, I almost didn't come. I'm glad you did, I said. I let her in. The dinner table was set for 2. I had cooked pasta with fresh vegetables and a sauce I had made that afternoon, salad, bread, a bottle of wine that I knew Emma liked. It was beautiful. It was perfect. And it was all a setup. Emma sat down and looked at the table. This is really nice, she said. I thought so too, I said. I thought it was time I started doing things for you, the way you've always done things for me. Something flickered across Emma's face, a recognition that something was off, but she was too distracted by the news article, by the investigation, to fully process it. We ate in silence for a few minutes. Then I said, I saw the article about your firm. Emma set down her fork. Yeah, she said, we're dealing with it. David thinks it's going to blow over, some accounting discrepancies that were already being addressed. What kind of discrepancies? I asked. I don't want to talk about it, Emma said. Okay, I said. I took a bite of pasta. Let me ask you something different then. Do you remember when you asked to borrow $23,000? Emma's fork stopped moving. It was a long time ago, she said carefully. It was 10 years ago, I said. October 17th. You said you needed it for your firm. You said you'd pay me back by June of the next year. Sarah, Emma started. You didn't pay me back, I said. And that's okay. People make mistakes. People get busy, I understand that. I set down my fork. But then something else happened, I continued. Someone opened a credit card in my name. They used my signature. They made $11,000 in charges over 2 years. Furniture, travel, restaurants. Emma's face had gone completely white. I didn't, she said. The handwriting on the credit card application matches your handwriting, I said. I had a handwriting expert verify it. It's 98% certainly your signature. Sarah, I can explain, Emma said. You don't have to, I said. I understand perfectly. You couldn't ask me for more money because you'd already broken my trust, so you took it without asking. Emma stood up. I don't have to sit here and listen to this, she said. You do, actually, I said calmly, because I have a folder sitting on the shelf in my office with copies of everything. Credit card statements, bank records, the forged signature. I have a private investigator's report. I have a lawyer, and I have documentation of everything that's happened. Emma moved toward the door. If you leave right now, I said, I'm filing charges with the police tomorrow morning. Federal charges for identity fraud. You'll be facing prison time. Your firm will be finished, not because of the discrepancies they're investigating, but because your business partner will have to know what you did to your own sister. Emma stopped. She didn't turn around. Or, I continued, you can sit back down and we can talk about what happens next. Emma turned back to face me. You wouldn't, she said. Try me, I said. And I meant it so completely that she could see it in my face. Emma sat back down. What do you want? She asked. I want you to tell me the truth, I said. I want you to tell me why you borrowed $23,000 and never paid it back, why you opened a credit card in my name, why you treated me like I was someone you could use. Emma looked at the table. Because I could, she said finally, because you would let me. I had expected her to cry, to apologize, to give me some reason that would make sense of it all. But what she gave me was honesty. You were always just available, Emma continued. You never had anything else going on. You didn't have a boyfriend or friends or plans. You just worked and came home. So when I needed money, I asked you. And when you said yes, I felt like I had finally won at something. Like I had finally gotten something from you that didn't come with this guilt trip of remember me, I'm your sister. I felt the words like a physical blow. I didn't mean to hurt you, Emma said. I just meant to, I don't know, take back some control. By stealing from me, I said. By borrowing from you, Emma said. And then by taking what I felt like you owed me anyway. Because you spent so much time and energy trying to make me feel guilty about not acknowledging your birthday that I started to feel like you were using me. Like you were trying to buy my love. This wasn't how it was supposed to go. I was supposed to feel justified. I was supposed to feel like the victim who had finally made her betrayer understand the pain she had caused. Instead, I felt something more complicated. I felt like we had both been hurt, just in different ways. The credit card, I said quietly, that crossed a line. I know, Emma said, and I'm sorry. I was angry and stupid and I wasn't thinking straight. I could have you arrested, I said. I know, Emma said. We sat in silence. What do you want to do? Emma asked finally. It was the same question Patricia had asked me. And I realized, sitting across from my sister in my carefully prepared apartment, that I didn't have an answer. I didn't send the letters the next day. I didn't file the police report. Instead, I called Patricia and told her I needed to think. Patricia didn't argue. She just said, take your time, but don't wait too long. These kinds of things have statutes of limitations. For a week, I did nothing. I went to work, I came home, I didn't talk to Emma. But I thought about what she said. I thought about whether I had been using my generosity as a weapon, whether I had been keeping careful score of everything I did for her, waiting for the moment when she would owe me enough that she'd have to acknowledge me. The truth is, I had. I had been keeping score for 20 years. And Emma had figured that out. What she did was wrong. What she did was criminal. But the impulse behind it, the desire to take back some power from someone who had made her feel guilty, that I understood. On the 7th day, I called my mother. "I'm not pressing charges," I said. My mother didn't respond immediately. "Sarah," she started. "But I'm not forgiving her either." I continued, "And we're not pretending that this didn't happen." "What do you want to do?" my mother asked. I told her my plan. It took another week to arrange, but I got my whole family together. My parents, Emma, me. We sat in my mother's living room on a Saturday afternoon, and I presented them with the documentation. Not as evidence of a crime, but as evidence of a break in our family that needed to be repaired. I told them about the $23,000, about the credit card opened in my name, about the handwriting expert and the private investigator and the lawyers. I told them that I had chosen not to press charges. And then I told them why. "Because," I said, "I don't want Emma to go to prison. I want Emma to understand what she did to me, and I want this family to understand what it did to me by forgetting about me for 20 years. My father started to speak, but I held up my hand. "Mom and Dad forgot my birthday," I said. "Not sometimes, regularly, systematically, and they celebrated Emma's birthday like it was a national holiday." I looked at my parents. That taught me that my life didn't matter as much as hers, that my existence was less important, that I should be grateful for whatever scraps of attention I received. I looked at Emma. "And when you stole from me, you confirmed what I had already learned, that I was someone who could be used, who could be taken advantage of, who could be hurt without consequence." Emma was crying. "I'm sorry," she said. "I'm so sorry." "I know," I said, "and I accept your apology, but apologies aren't consequences." I had drawn up a document. It was a contract. Emma would pay me back the entire amount, the $23,000 loan plus the $11,000 in fraudulent credit card charges. She would pay me in installments, starting immediately. But more than that, she would participate in family therapy with me. We would work with a professional to understand what had happened between us and why. She would also publicly acknowledge what she had done, not to the press, not to her business, but to the family, and everyone in our family would know. Finally, she would make a $5,000 donation to a foundation that supports financial literacy for young adults. Not because I wanted revenge, but because she needed to understand the impact of financial fraud on real people. "If you do these things," I said, "then I will not press charges." Emma looked at the contract. "If I do these things?" she asked. "If you do these things," I said, "then we move forward. We try to repair what's broken. We try to be a family that doesn't hurt each other." Emma signed it without reading the rest. My parents witnessed it. And that was the moment everything changed. Not because Emma went to prison. Not because she lost her business, or her reputation, or her freedom. But because I finally stopped being the forgotten sister. I finally made myself impossible to ignore. 6 months later, Emma had paid me back $15,000 of the $34,000 she owed. She was making the payments consistently. We had gone to 3 family therapy sessions together. They were difficult. We said things we should have said years ago. We cried. We argued. We slowly started to remember that we were sisters who had loved each other once before we learned to hurt each other. My mother changed too. She started calling me on other days, not just my birthday. She called to ask how work was going. She asked if I was happy. She told me that she had been thinking about my childhood and how little she had acknowledged my achievements and my pain. She cried when she apologized. And I cried too. My father, surprisingly, was the one who brought up the birthday issue at Thanksgiving. We were sitting at dinner and he said, "Sarah, I want to plan your next birthday with you. I want to know what you would like. I want to be intentional about it." It was a small thing, but it was the first time my father had ever asked me what I wanted for my own celebration. As for me, I changed the most. I stopped keeping score. I stopped documenting every gift I gave, every minute I spent, every way I tried to matter. I started saying no to things I didn't want to do. I started celebrating my own life. I turned 35 this year, and you know what I did? I took a week off work. I went to the ocean alone. I didn't tell anyone where I was going. I didn't celebrate with my family. I celebrated with myself. And on my birthday, sitting on a beach watching the sunset, I realized something important. The revenge I had planned for so long wasn't about destroying Emma. It was about destroying the version of me that believed I was someone who deserved to be forgotten. The confrontation, the documentation, the legal threat, all of it was just me finally saying, I matter. I matter enough to be remembered. I matter enough to be treated with respect. I matter enough to take up space. And once I said that, once I truly believed it, I didn't need revenge anymore. I just needed to live. Emma and I will probably never be as close as we were when I was making her birthday special, and she was using me for credit card fraud. But we're trying. We're trying to be sisters who respect each other. We're trying to be a family that doesn't hurt each other. And sometimes, in quiet moments, I think about that 10-year-old girl who started keeping records of her sister's birthdays. The girl who thought that if she was just generous enough, kind enough, quiet enough, then maybe she would finally be seen. I want to tell that girl something. I want to tell her that being seen isn't something you earn. It's something you demand. It's something you fight for. It's something you create for yourself by finally believing that you're worth remembering. My birthday is March 14th. And this year, I'm not waiting for anyone else to acknowledge it. I'm acknowledging it myself. And that, it turns out, is the only revenge I ever really needed.